In story time, today we'll see Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. It is a historical tragedy which is confined to Rome. The people of the age of Shakespeare believed in the concept of sovereignty. In Julius Caesar, the ideal of honor in public and political life is stressed. Now, in the first part of the play, we will see about the conspiracy. A group of noble citizens ruled Rome early in history. They formed a senate. The senate ruled wisely and worked for the welfare of the people. Soon, Rome grew very rich and powerful. The senate and the citizens grew selfish. They put their own interest before the public good and split into parties under petty-minded leaders. A fierce struggle for power began between these parties and the so-called leaders. Pompey and Julius Caesar were the two powerful men at the time. Both of them were great generals and large armies were under their command. In the rivalry for power, Caesar defeated Pompey and became the most powerful man in Rome. He grew ambitious. It appeared that he would proclaim himself as the king of the city and its large empire. Most Romans, however, did not want a king. Their history taught them that kings became tyrants. They wanted the old form of democratic government. They suspected Caesar, and they were even ready to kill him in order to protect and save the liberty of their country. Caesar defeated Pompey and returned to Rome in great triumph. A public holiday was declared to celebrate his victory. Great crowd of people were eagerly waiting for the victorious procession to pass by. Many people had climbed to the top of the roof to catch a glimpse of the mighty Caesar. Not so long ago, they had done the same thing to Pompey, but Pompey was now forgotten. They had eyes and cheers only for Caesar. As Caesar passed through the Arch of Triumph, people shouted in ecstasy. The leading citizens surrounded him. Mark Antony, his chief officer in many bloody battles, was on his left side. On his right was the noble Brutus, Caesar's most trusted friend and a senator whom everyone held in high esteem. There were Caesar's enemies also among the leading citizens. Some of them envied Caesar's greatness and feared his ambition. A soothsayer was there to foretell that treachery was in the air. He pushed himself to the front of the crowd and shouted the memorable words, "Caesar, Caesar, beware the Ides of March." The soothsayer repeated his warning twice. Nobody listened to him. Most people thought that he was mad. The procession moved forward. It was making its slow way to the field of Mars, where games were going to be held in honor of the victorious general. Brutus was anxious. He was in no mood for revelry and left the procession. By chance, he came upon an acquaintance with Cassius, a senator like him. Cassius had long been Caesar's enemy, but he always pretended to be Caesar's friend. He soon found that Brutus was anxious over Caesar's rise to power. Cassius feared that the people at the public games were going to offer Caesar the crown of the king. Caesar would also accept it. That would mean the beginning of tyranny and the end of freedom in Rome. Cassius, cunning by nature, began to belittle Caesar and do his best to turn Brutus against him. The people, said Cassius, look upon Caesar as a superman, as a god, in fact. But he is only a weak man like the rest of us. He continued, I remember how we were swimming one day in the Tiber. Caesar's strength gave out, and he would have drowned if I had not been there to help him to the bank. Cassius then told Brutus other tales to show that Caesar was no better than anybody else. He ended with these words, it's the duty of a noble Roman to prevent Caesar from becoming the king and robbing Rome of her freedom. Brutus was the noblest of all the Romans. He could not bear the thoughts of tyranny and slavery which would come as a result of the king's rule. The thought of Caesar's ambition had long troubled him. He realized that the time for action had come. Brutus must act to save Rome. He must kill Caesar. He was Caesar's friend, but he loved Rome more. He was ready to sacrifice his dearest friend for Rome. Not do I love Caesar less, but I do love Rome more, was the thought of Brutus. He did not speak aloud his thoughts to Cassius. When Cassius asked him what was to be done, he answered, I must think over the matter. Brutus and Cassius talked together for some time. Now and then they heard the sounds of shouts and wild applause from the field of Mars. Were the people offering Jesus the crown of king? Was he accepting it? At last they saw the victorious procession leaving the field of Mars. Casca, a friend of Cassius, left the procession to join Brutus and Cassius. He brought them the news of what had happened at a meeting. Casca reported that Caesar had been offered the crown by Mark Antony. Mark Antony offered it 3 times, and all the time Caesar refused it. But, said Casca, Caesar declined it only because he was not sure whether the crowd really wanted it. He would accept it when it was offered to him again. These words made Brutus more anxious than ever. Brutus left Cassius. Cassius went home and wrote some anonymous letters to Brutus. In the letters, he said that Rome was expecting Brutus to save the republic. When Casca came to visit Cassius, Cassius told him what he had done. He also told him that he was making a plot to kill Caesar. Casca readily agreed to join the plot. Casca and Cassius knew that the plot could succeed only if Brutus joined them. Brutus was known for his honesty. People respected him for his upright character. Many men would follow it. He joined. All men would say that their cause was just and honorable. Accordingly, Casca and Cassius decided to pay a visit to Brutus that very night. They would persuade Brutus to join the treacherous plot. That was the night before the Ides of March. It was a sleepless night for Brutus. One thing was clear in his tormented mind. The life of the republic meant the death of Caesar. Before Caesar put an end to republic, Brutus must put an end to Caesar's life. Yes, it was very hard for him to kill his friend. A servant brought in some anonymous letters. He had found them in the window of his master's study. The high-minded Brutus was easily deceived. He thought that different citizens had written the letters. All the letters seemed to prove one idea, that the people of Rome were expecting him to save them from tyranny. It was some time after the midnight. Cassius, Casca, and other conspirators came to see Brutus. The cunning Cassius argued that it was the duty of Brutus to save the republic. By proposing such an argument, he persuaded Brutus to join the plot. The details of the plot were then arranged. It was decided that Caesar was to be murdered in the Senate house that very morning. The conspirators wanted to kill Mark Antony as well, but Brutus was against this idea. Antony, he told them, is but a limb of Caesar. Cassius warned Brutus that Mark Antony would be very dangerous, but Brutus refused to believe it. The conspirators unwillingly consented to let Mark Antony live. Portia was the loving and loyal wife of Brutus. She had watched her husband all that evening. She was able to see that something was heavily weighing on his mind. After midnight, she heard that her husband was talking secretly with several men. She did not know who the visitors were. When the visitors had left, Portia went to her husband. Tell me, I beg you, what's on your mind? She said to him, I am your wife and I have the right to know what is troubling you. Brutus would have told her about the plan if another visitor had not come there. We will continue the second part of the story in the upcoming video.